A fort built to stop an invasion that never came. Guns that were never fired at an enemy. Tunnels dug into a hillside above Dover Castle. Sealed off from the town for over a century and only ever opened to the public a handful of times. On the 27th of September 2025, KASE Paranormal became the first ever team to formally investigate it.
2 teams, 15 investigators, casemates, tunnels, 4 separate basement levels, and a room nicknamed Disney, for reasons you're about to find out are anything but magical. This is episode 12 of the KASE Files, Fort Burgoyne. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 12 of the KASE Files. I'm Rick and as always I'm joined by my man Crabby.
How we doing?
Yeah man, I'm good. You?
Well, yeah, it certainly comes around quick when they're doing these episodes, as we said.
It does.
Yeah, the first thing we'll start with though is that obviously since the last episode you went on an investigation. I couldn't make it due to dad duties, but you and the rest of the team investigated Fort Horsted.
Yeah, we did. For those who don't know, Fort Horsted, it's obviously in Chatham. Not as old as you think it is, but still over a century old. It was a good place. It was fun. Had some interesting energies. Not as much happened this night as it did with you before, as I'm aware. But as ever, I'm just happy to get into a place with a paranormal history and a good bulk of history behind it itself, and see what we can do.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, this is a bit of a prelude to what's going to come, because there will be a Fort Horsted video coming out at some point.
There will.
We're just literally going through all the footage at the moment, reviewing it, and then obviously editing that down. And we will then try and put a video out, I believe, as well. I think, and then there's going to be the actual investigation that we will then come in and talk about eventually. So yeah, Fort Horsted, great place, actually one of my favorite places, to be honest with you, because the stuff that's happened in the past there, there's been so much. There was one time, I don't know if Dan told you, just as the investigation was starting, someone crossed the entrance of the tunnel.
Yeah, Dan did mention that.
The person just disappeared. But equally, you kind of have to dismiss it because there was builders and stuff working on site at the time. I think
it's a big old place.
Yeah, they were finishing up, but also there is general public not too far behind it. So you know me.
Yeah,
I rule a lot out.
A few times that night we heard bits and pieces, and there's for the first hour while we were there doing our pre-brief, we kept on hearing like a woo.
Right.
It was driving us insane, right? We nailed it. It was a loose bit of metal girdering the other side of the fort that had echoed through the tunnels to us. So me and Laura go up there with 2 massive cinder blocks, and we basically trap it in place.
Right.
Go back to the rest of the group. Ooh. We're like, no way have we just spent 20 minutes looking to debunk this thing, to try and find it. We've not found it. Turns out, you look straight above you, there's a 360 camera that follows you.
Oh.
And whenever that was twisting, it go,
right. It was following you.
It was following us when we were moving. And so then we're like, right, okay, there we go. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the extent that we go to debunk any bits and pieces that we can't explain, because it is a bloody nightmare when that happens.
That must be a new camera as well, because that wasn't there the last time I was there.
It's a high-tech bit of kit. I was really surprised when I actually looked up and was like, wow, that's really impressive.
It's a decent venue. I mean, it's actually appeared on one of the episodes of Ghost Adventures as well. And a long time ago. I think it's one of the first kind of series, or series 2 of the Ghost Adventures. So they hadn't long started, and they caught some interesting stuff. So I mean, that's obviously out there if you want to go and view that as well. But so we'll come back to that.
Yep, put that on the shelf. Yeah, come back to that later.
But equally, a very good location. But again, it's hit and miss, right?
Yeah, hit and miss.
Yeah.
But tonight, this one's a bit different for me. because since we started this podcast, I'm not just asking questions about places I've not been.
Yes.
I was here. This is my first investigation ever with KASE. I went to the standard public ones where you chip 40 quid and the bloke stands behind you and knocks on the wall and scares the life out of you. I've done that.
Okay. What, at Fort Burgoyne?
Not at Fort Burgoyne.
Oh,
no.
okay. Somewhere else.
But this is Fort Burgoyne. This was my first ever investigation with KASE, and Crabby, it was equally as important to you, wasn't it?
Yeah, so this was my first investigation back after about a year and a bit out of KASE, and so literally just came straight back into it. And
why did you take that break?
It was a whole magnitude of different things, personal stuff as well as changes within the former KPS group, which that was the previous name, obviously KPS, but before it turned into KASE. And I think with any group, there's always that
the dynamic, isn't there?
There was significant changes going on, and I think there may have been some kind of political issue, shall we say?
Yeah, Dan staged a coup.
Yeah, and Dan won.
He did. So history is written by the winners, ladies and gentlemen. and Mugabe here is back out and able to continue to work with KASE, which is lovely because even though it was a year out, I kind of missed it. It's not just the investigations of it; it's also working closely with people that the other members of the group who I've known for a very long time. I've known Dan for like over 10 years and know other people over 10 years. And I think there's always that, you take a break, but you're kind of floating around the periphery and
you're never out of it. You've always got 1 foot in and 1 foot out in that kind of, because me and Dan are always messaging like, how's it going? What's happened on these investigations? So you're never like solely out of it, to be honest with you. It's just, you're not physically there. So yeah, it was nice to come back. I'd never done Fort Burgoyne before. Obviously, we hadn't met at that point.
No.
There was a few people in that room that I didn't recognise. And then, Matt had actually come back that night as well, I believe. Yeah, it was his first night back after a break as well. So it was very much kind of picking up where we left off. It's not kind of a new thing as such. The only difference is that you've got new people that you're working with. You're kind of getting used to kind of working with them, and the group dynamic is different, obviously, and obviously the location was new as well. I'd never been there before. It was
I didn't even know it existed.
No, neither did I. So it was the first time that it had been proper investigated, and fortunately we were the first group to kind of go in there.
But I want to go back. I want to go.
Yeah. We are. We're going back next year, so it'll be reinvestigated again, which I think is great because it's a really good venue. So
tell me how it felt for you. Like, obviously you come back year out. What was your initial? Because obviously I'm going to give you this is what it felt for me for my first ever investigation. I want to know what it felt like to come back. It's hard to explain because there's obviously the excitement of being back. There's the excitement of a new venue. But also there's the anticipation of being out for so long, going back into the group, re-embedding yourself, kind of. Were you more nervous about going back to the people that you already knew or to the people that you didn't?
The people that obviously knew me, that's not a problem. That's never an issue. But yeah, making acquaintances with new people who you totally don't know, everybody's opinion and kind of thought process of the paranormal is completely different. We all think about the paranormal completely in our own way. You're going to touch upon stuff that is kind of samey, but you're never going to think about it in the same way. I'm very kind of skeptical, even though of what I've experienced. I'm still a very skeptical person. I think you have to rule out pretty much 90% of rational explanations, right?
So for me, it was more of obviously to let everybody at home know. So you can't just sort of rock up and message message us and just go, "Oh, would like to join." There's like an actual vetting process that happens, now Laura, but before it was just Dan. They will, that will go back, we'll message, do some emails. Dan will arrange a video interview, and that normally lasts about 45 minutes, an hour. Dan asks you some pretty personal questions.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to know why. Dan doesn't want to know, why do you want to come and join the paranormal? Or why do you want to come and join this group? Oh, I'm moderately interested. Dan wants to know why you in here. What has drawn you to this point where you're contacting a private investigation team to get to try to scientifically document this phenomena and to try and gain proof? Why is that? We don't want a surface level answer of, I'm just vaguely interested. We want something that's part of you, don't we? We don't want some.
Yeah, you want someone who is not scientifically kind of orientated, but you need someone who's going to be dismissive of the subject as well. Not to believe everything you see and you hear. He's obviously, Dan is kind of passionate. I think he wants to see that passion from other people as well. Bear in mind, obviously, that when you join the group, you're on a probationary period as well. So it's very strict in that sense. You're kind of observed and monitored on your first investigation, just to make sure that one, you fit in, two, it's for you, and whether you're going to be a good fit for the team as well.
Honestly, it was one of the most nervous parts because it was strange because I didn't want to be like, oh my God, I've just X, Y, and Z. It was almost, I had this sort of like closed anxiety about being like, should I react to X? Should I react to Y? I don't want to seem too overly dramatic.
I get that. I was very much the same on that because, as I say, I'm quite open to kind of experiencing energy and stuff like that. So when you do experience something like that, you don't want to kind of like sound like a bit of a wally in front of those who are going, okay, that's a bit odd.
I don't want to be like sat off on my own and be like, I've had this phenomenal experience.
Well, for example, I was in that, I don't know, there was a particular room. It was a door with bars on it, but the bars, there's no glass. It's just iron bars in the middle of it. But I was sensing that there was a guy with a dog walking around. I don't know why, it just came to me. I could see, like in my mind's eye, that there was a dog, and I could sense, I could hear this dog. And I kind of picked up on the notion that this was some form of security dog, and the guy who was with the dog was patrolling. Now, just after I said that, there was a whistle, and exactly a whistle that you would whistle a dog, like over here. You know what I mean? And then we heard whistles throughout the night as well. So that made me feel a little bit better, because then you're not crazy, right? Because then people then start going, okay, this guy's legit. Then he's not just making it up, or he's not talking nonsense. So, but the whistling was out throughout the night anyway. So
it's very important not to get carried away, though.
Yeah, you have to keep your feet on the ground.
Yeah,
a lot of people come in and they kind of think it's going to be like Most Haunted or other TV shows where it's all sensationalized and things are happening all the time, stuff being thrown and all that. It doesn't happen.
It's been really interesting. So, like, I've had, obviously I've been on numerous investigations now, but my first night at Fort Burgoyne, I had a couple of experiences, and I think I took them for granted. Because then my second investigation was then Slough Fort, where I had again some more experiences. But then for my last few investigations, I've not felt anything, and it's been really, really blank. And I look back on them and I sort of feel like, maybe I took them for granted a little bit. This isn't Most Haunted. This isn't Ghost Adventures where you're going to go in and get possessed. You're not going to go in and get that. And get the Annabelle doll. You're just not. This is looking for a needle in a haystack. And
I've seen a lot of people come and go just through that. Like, people join thinking what they've seen online or what they've seen on TV is how it is. They soon realize that it's not, and a lot of them say, "Do you know what? It's not really for me." As maybe
I've said
I thought it was for me, but it's not. And
I've said
I'm
this
gonna
before,
leave.
you know, like all these ghost stories you hear, they're not, you know, these paranormal experiences that people have, they're not continuous events. These are snippets of 30-second, minute experiences that people have had over numerous years, and they've just been able to convalesce them into this sort of 20-minute story that they can then tell you. But that story's taken 8 years to manufacture. We're looking for one of those 30 seconds. And it's just that's what we're here looking for. But do you want to get into the history of the fort?
Yeah, we can do. Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's going to be a lot of people out there that have no idea about what Fort Burgoyne is, or where it is, or what does it do.
I've lived within 20 miles of Fort Burgoyne my entire life. I didn't know it was there.
And that goes to show like how well hidden.
And I'm a history nerd as well. Like I'm disgusting. Like I've done so much history stuff around here, and Fort Burgoyne's just sort of gone with the ether from me.
But yeah, it's got an enormous important history to it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So as we know, it's in Dover. It's in the middle of the 19th century. Britain was gripped by what historians call an invasion fever. France under Napoleon III is rebuilding its navy, and there's a real fear in Parliament. I know. Well, they're so close, aren't they? And their fear was that an invasion fleet could land on the south coast within any days. And in 1859, a royal commission is set up to review the country's coastal defences, and Dover, as the closest point to France, becomes one of the most fortified places in Britain.
That's really interesting because the paranoia of that, the paranoia of the French
The noise
invasion,
of that just then was perfect timing.
The paranoia of the French invasion is also what built Fort Horsted.
Yeah, Fort Horsted, Fort Amherst. You know, there's so many mini forts as well that have either been destroyed as well. So, yeah, Kent is deep, full of history. You know, as many other counties as well. You know, each county had its job throughout the wars. You know, so. But yes, so going back, construction started in 1861. It's built on a high ground to the north of Dover Castle, on a site that has already been known for years as a Castle Hill fort. Designed by a royal engineer, a guy called Captain Edmund Duquesne, which kind of sounds French. Yeah. Inside job. Polygonal design, that's the term for the shape. Polygonal. What did I say?
Polygonal. Yeah, well, to be fair, I would have gone with polygonal as well. But it's only when I looked.
So what is it?
I reckon it's polygonal.
If we haven't got time to argue over it, but look it up. So that's the term for the shape.
Maybe
angled ramparts and defensive lines designed to give artillery clear fields of fire in every direction, with no blind spots for an attacking force to hide in. By 1862, it's renamed Fort Burgoyne.
French name.
Yep, Fort Burgoyne again, after General Sir John Burgoyne, who at the time was Britain's Inspector General of Fortifications. So, like Inspector Clouseau almost.
The view from Fort Burgoyne is beautiful.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's magnificent.
Where you stand in
360 view, right?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Where you stand in like what is now the car park, but would have been the where they did the parades, and they would have done where they did the march and stuff.
They would have rolled out all the cannons out of every nook and cranny of the fort as well.
It is a beautiful place, but it was built purely just for war. Then just no other reason, but just to stop the French.
And I think that was another factor of when we were the first people to go there. When you see it in its glory like that, and you kind of picture how it would have looked, as you say, back in its day, amazing.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Even driving in and then coming into it, like, wow, this is a place. This is a place.
And it would have been very well looked after as well. Like they would have pumped so many kind of, personnel into there as well, just to make sure that, it does its job and, it stays how it is, So, yes. So it's worth saying Dover had already been fortified once before this, decades earlier during the what is it?
Napoleonic.
Napoleonic, yeah. So you're here for my kind of spitting out of words. So during the Napoleonic Wars.
Napoleonic.
What do you call it?
Napoleonic.
Napoleonic.
That's
right,
it.
sorry. I'm so uneducated. When the same fear of French invasion led to the construction of Western Heights, which obviously is still there today, the huge network of forts, ditches and barracks on the other side of the town, including the Grand Shaft. Oh dear, that extraordinary triple staircase that they cut straight through the cliff so soldiers could move fast between the barracks and the harbour. I believe that's still there today as well.
It is.
The Fort Burgoyne isn't part of that older Napoleonic system. It's a generation later, purpose-built for the 1860s threat, but it sits in that same landscape, that same long tradition of Dover bracing itself for an invasion from across the channel that time and again simply never comes.
So this is Dover's second absolute panic wave.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's Fort Burgoyne's version of it. Casemated barrack blocks, vaulted rooms built into the earth itself, thick enough to survive artillery fire.
That's a word.
Caponniers?
That's the one.
Caponniers, which are armoured structures projecting out of the ditch walls so troops could fire along the length of the moat at anyone trying to cross it. Tunnels connecting the levels, a parade ground, as you mentioned. By the time the wing batteries are finished in 1869 and 1870, fort is bristling. 35 guns on the main rampart alone. Another 24 split across the caponniers and gun rooms. It's built to hold thousands of men and to make Dover as close to unsaleable as Victorian engineering could possibly manage.
Oh, it's a shame they never had to use it, right?
I know.
Well, that's a shame. The invasion never bothered coming, and we spent more money on stuff we didn't need to, again, on another fort.
And obviously a lot of the deaths came from accidents. Yeah, accidents involving gunpowder or accidents through things falling on them.
To be fair, that moat around the outside of it, that was like, I mean, I'm just looking back on it, that must be some sort of 6, 12, 18, must be 30 foot. Up that wall, you fall over that, you're done.
Exactly. That
was striking how deep that moat is around the outside.
Especially if, like, soldiers would have had a drink or anything, and then they stumbled out of there and fallen over. Yeah. So, but yes, so an invasion never comes, which is Fort Burgoyne's whole story, really. It's a fortress built entirely around a threat that never materialized. The guns are never fired at an enemy as weapons technology moves on through the 1880s as well. The original armaments become obsolete and get reduced, but the fort doesn't get abandoned, it just changes purpose. Through the early 20th century, it becomes barracks and accommodation, and in the First World War, it's used to assemble and house troops, and basically does supplies being sent across the channel to the Western Front.
Okay, so at least it gets used in the Second and First World Wars, yeah?
Yeah, it does. So during the Second World War, the fort takes on air and sea defensive roles. Anti-aircraft positions go on site. The old casemates get used as overflow barracks alongside the main garrison. Pillboxes, gun emplacements, blast walls, the whole hillside gets adapted again for a new kind of war. Dover, remember, spent the Second World War as one of the most heavily shelled towns in Britain, close enough to occupied France that German guns could reach it pretty much directly. So the fort sat right in the middle of that.
It's really quite surprising, actually, considering you look at some of the other places, like in Germany that were levelled, and they're a lot nicer than Dover. They could have done better. You could have done better, UK. I'm from here. I'm allowed to say this, Dover. It's over, lads. Just we'll start again. We'll start the shelling again. And we'll just build it again.
It's not a bad idea. There's many other places in Kent for that as well. But anyway,
the generations pass through this place, then, yeah.
Yeah, it's a generation after generation, and it keeps a military role for decades after that too. It eventually becomes part of what's known as Connaught Barracks, home in later years to the Parachute Regiment. And that is where the story finally ends, or at least where the army story in that building ends. The 1st Battalion of the Parachute Regiment departs in March 2006, and Connaught Barracks closes for good.
Do you know what? I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was in operation up to 20 years ago. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But that's, over a century and a half of just continuous military use. There's bound to be some some interesting things have happened there during that time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's 145 years, give or take, and then nothing. The site falls into a kind of limbo state. It's a scheduled monument, protected by law, but it's not maintained the way it was when soldiers were obviously living in it. Ivy's taken over the brickwork, the rampart structures, the hacksaw casemates start to deteriorate from neglect. It's now owned by a body called the Land Trust, who are working on plans for its long-term future. And every so often it gets opened up for tours or heritage sites. But for most of its recent life, Fort Burgoyne has simply just sat there, empty on the hillside above the castle, the building constructed to be full of men, all guns and disciplines and purpose, and then left for the better part of 20 years to nobody at all, which is obviously why not many people know it's there.
Just crazy, because
you've got a brand new housing estate that's just been built by it now as well.
Well, I'd sort of assumed it had been dormant since like the 80s or the 70s, just for the sheer deterioration. But it's gone to pot. But some of the bits that they've actually, repurposed and have started again, you can actually see how people used to live there.
Yeah.
Because Jesus, I couldn't imagine living there now. It is rough. I mean, it's such an impressive monument to British paranoia, but it is rough, isn't it? It's been really run down. Bless it. It needs some love.
It's got some interesting bats though.
Yeah, it does. They're really cool. Lucy bloody hated them. But it's a long time for it just to sit empty though.
It is. And I mean, like, you think about what actually means day to day, a parade ground with nobody marching across it, barracks, rooms built to dozens of men with the beds and the noise and the routine of military life, stripped out and never replaced. Corridors were built for constant footsteps, hearing none. Doors that were open and closed hundreds of times a day for a century and a half, now open maybe a handful of times a year for a tour group or like a paranormal group like ourselves, or a survey.
Well, no, not like a paranormal. We're the first ones.
Well, yeah, as of now. But yeah, and on the 27th of September 2025, that's when we ventured in.
But all the time that it was left empty, nobody thought, is there something still there?
Well, as far as we've been able to establish, no. There are obviously heritage records, engineering surveys, conservation reports going way back, all documenting the brickwork, the ivy, the structural risk. Nothing documenting what, if anything, might still be moving through those rooms after everyone else has left. Though there are stories.
There are, which is why we were asked in there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because there was, when we were there was a boxing.
I was just going to say that it's been turned into a boxing gym.
Yeah, so some of the casemates have now been a bit like Fort Horsted, adapted for private businesses. There's sort of like in the first 3, as you go in, there's now a boxing gym and like a ring, a training room, and they've had some interesting bits and pieces happen, haven't they, that they thought they might want to get somebody in for.
Was it like lights, their lights going on and off? I think it was one of the stories.
Yeah. There's lots of things being moved.
Yeah,
not being in the same place as they were left the night before. Just the standard ghosty stuff. The tunnels were still there. Everything's still intact. Everything's still good to go. Effectively, with a bit of TLC, it could be just straight up used for war again.
Could be, yeah. I mean, like, there's no reason why they wouldn't. I mean, it's all been kind of looked after in its own way. It hasn't become derelict in a way. Those tunnels are still structurally sound. I mean, we've been in it. We know that.
Yeah, we do.
They could just make some significant changes here and there, but it's still sturdy enough, still operational easily. So,
do you want to set the scene for our investigation? Hi guys, it's Rick from the KASE Files. If you like what you're hearing today, please like, subscribe, follow us on all streaming platforms, and follow us on YouTube.
So, as you said before, 15 investigators, 2 teams, 1 night, going into a building nobody had ever asked that question of before. No previous reports to compare against, no local ghost stories already circulating that would, put thoughts in our head or prime us, but whatever we found first. So, yeah,
Saturday the 27th of September.
It's hard to believe it was nearly a year ago.
It's how long these things take to come around as well.
So I'll set the scene. So, yep, the other date that you mentioned, access to Fort Burgoyne isn't something that you can just turn up and arrange. It's licensed, agreed in advance, done properly. We've split into 2 teams to cover the site without crowding one particular area.
We needed to.
Yeah. And partway through the night, we kind of swapped sections so we could see the same kind of activity.
Yeah, so we split up 2 teams, and then we can compare notes at the end of it to see if
see if anything kind of matches in terms of what was experienced in that place. So yeah.
So you got Team A. Who was that?
So Team A was myself, Dan, you, Sue, Alan, Lisa, and of course, Georgia was with us as well.
Yeah, I was too scared not to go without my partner.
And Team B consisted of Ben, Jake, Lucy, Sam, Lee, Laura, and Carlos, which don't think we ever saw him again.
Never saw him again. But it was also Laura's first investigation with this as well, wasn't it?
Very true, yes.
It was. So it was 8 on one team, 7 on the other. 15 of us for a fort that needed more. We were up against it, weren't we? But that's it. Chucked in there, left on our own in the dark.
Yeah. Which is worth sitting with for a second, because the building was designed to hold an army, and here we are, like 15 people rattling around inside something built on that scale. Changes how a place feels. You're not filling it. You're barely a presence at all, really, in such a big building like that.
No, so obviously one of the main things that we have to take into consideration is the atmospheric conditions and what we were going into. What were they like that night?
Just a standard September evening. I think we've said that before, but it was cool, humid, not very windy. I'd say like light winds.
It's nice evening.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because the stars were kind of like quite prominent from up there, from what I remember.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
But we were still feeling the tail end of Storm Gabriel at that point, which I completely forgot about actually. So it was kind of unstable air pressure, humidity that wouldn't settle, around 12 degrees at 6 in the evening, dropping to about 8 by 2 in the morning. Light easterly breeze, moderate humidity around 70%. Moon was waxing, so I think it was a big moon.
Big moon.
I do remember that basically because it was a very the stars and everything was so prominent. But so the moon was about 77% illuminated or something like that. So there was natural light outside for whatever that's worth underground.
So we go into this massive place. What did we take with us that night in terms of kit?
Again, we take a different mix of all different equipment. It's environmental mixing, monitoring, and interaction-based tools, things like K2 meters, EMF detectors, obviously to track electromagnetic fluctuations, REM pod, which sits in a room and alerts you if movement is nearby or if something passes it will go off. Spirit boxes for both teams, a laser grid, which later on becomes very important. Ouija boards. I think that was the first time that we'd used the new Ouija boards there as well. So that was sessions for both teams. And that's obviously for direct kind of communication that we were trying to get. Cat balls, they were very prominent that night from what I remember. There was quite a lot of cat balls on display.
There was, yeah.
With ramps, glow-in-the-dark ramps, I remember that. Static cameras, obviously, very important, and a motion sensor camera positioned to capture anything in areas that weren't actively standing in, and voice recorders and apps running throughout the night should anything kind of come through that was interesting or significant.
We had a lot of gear, though, yeah? We had a lot.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, you know what Alan's like as well. Alan's brings a lot.
Like a whole tool, screw fix toolbox case with stands like up to my chest, and it's got a big thing, and he just pulls it out. It's got all the drawers. Is watching Alan.
I remember when Alan had nothing. He literally didn't. He would have had a torch, and but yeah, over the years, he's surpassed me about 6 times over with the amount of equipment that he's got. But yeah, not just Alan, but everybody obviously has their own stuff as well. Dan, Laura, yourself.
KASE,
I have a little bits and pieces, but yeah, I mean, put that all together and you've got quite a good setup, really.
Yeah, we do. I think, especially now, I think over this last year, our setup's really evolved.
I mean, if there was a paranormal war, we've got the merchandise to kind of go to war with.
We do.
The paranormal, that's how you want it, right? We've got we've got the stuff that can kind of tell us where they are.
We could do it. So fort like this is old, it's huge, it's full of tunnels, so you've got ruling things out is a real nightmare.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a nightmare, but especially when you've got echoes through tunnel systems and corridors.
Yeah, like I said with the Fort Horsted thing, that little will just go, and it's a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, and then obviously the airflow shifts as well. You got the bats,
They're fun.
Yeah, but you don't see the bats. You kind of, if you're in the pitch
feel
black,
the bats as they go straight past your face.
Yeah, or you can hear them making the noises, that kind of thing. So you've got the bats to take into consideration, and then you've got the damp, the cold. How that naturally affects your body throughout the night as well. And so you've got to take into consideration of temperature fluctuations, whether it be dropping and also going up, because it alters in different rooms.
So before we've even switched on any equipment, spirit box, we've already built this sort of pre-notion in our head as to what we're going to expect to hear from the building itself, so we know what we can and can't rule out.
Yeah, it's a starting position. So the strongest activity across the whole night ended up being roughly 9 o'clock through to 10:45, with things continuing on and off after midnight.
Can I just ask something before we actually get into this? What was going through your head when you knew where we were going, when you saw the site? Because you've investigated hundreds of places.
Yeah,
but this is a big one. What was your first thoughts when you saw this? When you saw the fort?
Well, it takes you by surprise, because I don't look up where I'm going. If I don't know it, then I haven't been there before, I won't look it up. So I am just kind of rocking up. I think I was a bit late that night, so I didn't get a preliminary walk around. So I just basically, we started, and I just kind of immediately started walking around with my group, right? So, I was going from room to room and seeing what I picked up, and, you just take it all in. But I think it was one of the first rooms that we went to was when I started hearing that whistle, the guy whistling, and then kind of noticing that, because if you remember, we kind of went out of that room because of what we were being picked up, and we kind of went in behind it. That was weird.
It was weird.
Yeah, was that my chair?
I think so.
Yeah, it sounded like a voice.
We got some weird stuff in there.
What was I saying? So we went behind where the rooms were. There was like a don't know what you want to call it, like a walkway.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
And I know that we hung back there for a while, and people were picking up again, whistling.
It's really strange with these forts, isn't it? I've been to 3 now, and it always feels like there's something just.
Well, I don't know if you remember, the light behind us came on, but
it's just getting there.
Oh, is that when we're
just getting to it, mate?
Right.
Yeah, we're just getting there. Right, let's get into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ground level, straight in. We are, me and you, Team A. Yeah.
Yep.
Are you with me?
I am. Yep.
We start on the ground floor, the casemates and the tunnel routes. That includes a stretch of runs near to what is the boxing gym now. And the activity begins before anybody's actually settled. And this is my first experience ever. And it's at like 20 to 9 at night. And it was something I just caught out of the corner of my eye.
Because obviously, bear in mind, it's motion censored, and we were nowhere near it.
Yeah. So behind the boxing gym, they have, like, when you walk into a room and the light turns on because somebody's walked in there, they got the motion sensor. We were aware that behind our base camp was, and bearing in mind as well, before we knew none of why they had actually asked us in here. Only Dan knew why. Only Dan knows when he makes contacts with these places, what's happening. We just get come and asked to investigate.
Yeah.
I am the last person with Alan lagging back at the end of the group, and we're walking past. We've stepped outside and we're walking past the window, and on my left-hand side, out of my left window, I can see the boxing gym and the boxing ring. And behind that, in the corridor, I see the light go on. I turn to Alan and I go, is that a motion-censored light that just go on? And he goes, I don't know, mate, did it? I went, yeah. So so we both go back, we check it out, and there's no one there. Mm. And that's when Alan decides to set up his trail cam. It's a standard trail cam, bought off Amazon, it's 50 quid. He showed me which one it is. It's not X, Y, and Z. Basically, he sets this trail cam up, we sit it in the area, and if it detects any movement, it will take 5 rapid photographs. And then if it still detects movements after that, it will then record a 30-second video. Mm-hmm. But that is what our first experience of that night is. Do you want to go from there?
Yeah, so I mean, it's you've got to kind of like make note of the fact that you haven't set off that motion light, even walking on the outside. I think we tested that theory
heavily.
Yeah, so I think that's important to mention that. But so kind of after that, like 15 minutes later, the main door opened and it opened behind Dan. Yeah,
I remember because I was stood in front of Dan at that point.
And that was like while he's in mid-investigation, so the door has not been touched. It's not clear whether it had been fully latched beforehand, but it looked like it just closed right up until it moved.
Yes, I remember because I was stood. Dan was stood behind me because we were in the corner of the room, and he was setting up the static cam in what is the Disney room. And he's setting it up, and he stood behind the camera checking the screen, and I'm stood to his left, and it opens up, and he goes, that just opened. I went, I don't think so. He's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it just opened. And we tried to recreate it, but it's a heavy old door. These things were meant to stop invasions, but these aren't like replica doors. These are original doors that were supposed to stop the French coming in. I know it's not very hard, you just have to say no and they'll stop. But these were heavy doors used to actually wanting to stop people coming through. These aren't just things that are going to be done by a light breeze. These are heavy doors.
Yeah.
That kind of thing you can explain away. You can talk yourself out of that one. A door that wasn't quite shut, the building settled in, a particularly strong breeze, that's fine.
Yeah, but a few minutes later, the team hears a thud and footsteps coming from the tunnel directly behind the room that they were standing in. So not from the outside, not from another team, but from an empty tunnel behind a room that had already had the people in it.
Yeah, so I heard that one myself. Because my first investigation, I don't want to. It's really weird because, like I said to you before I started, I don't want to give this sort of like I'm being very dramatic. I wanted to present myself with like, oh, I'm a seasoned investigator. I've got this. No, I didn't react well under my calm.
I remember you were quite both you and Georgia were very wary, and
I was timid. That first night, I was. I'm not like I am now. I'll do whatever I want now.
But that was because you had, eventually, like later on in that night, you actually had a burst of experience. So
yeah,
and Georgia did too, and I think you both experienced it at the same time where nobody else did. So, so that was worth kind of like taking that on board as well. But so yeah, I mean, how did you handle that in the moment?
I sort of looked around for people to sort of be like, hey, how should I react here? Looked at Dan, and Dan was like, yeah, I'm cool. I've been doing this for 10 years. Don't need to. It's fine. It's just some ghostly footsteps. Me and Crabby have done a lot worse. It was sort of a bit.
Well, we're familiar with footsteps, especially with ones that are running up towards us as well, and you can't see anyone, and you're like, did that just happen? But yeah, no, I get that.
I had to log it, keep the time, keep track of the time, and just keep cool. But for people that are going on their first investigations, don't feel like you're supposed to be this absolutely seasoned veteran straight away. It's stupid to think that you're going to be. It really is. Just take it and how it comes, and just give yourself a natural reaction to things.
That's the thing. You've really got to just experience it for yourselves, and I even recommend just not doing it with equipment. Got your eyes and ears at the end of the day.
I love a bit of eyes and ears.
Yeah,
I do.
It's probably the best way. But then 20 minutes after that, 9:24 in the floor level tunnels, a whistle again. We've mentioned that, but it was clear. Followed by a second whistle, which was then heard by multiple people. And this is interesting because this was already something that I had heard earlier, which nobody had heard.
Yeah.
So again, when you're saying like, well, how did you feel like, breaking bread, if you like, with your new people, and they must be thinking, why is this guy hearing whistles? And then for it to happen, and then everyone hears it, you're like,
vindicated.
Yeah, maybe he's right after all.
But it's interesting because this is both groups as well at this point. This is Group A in one location, Group B in the other location, both hearing this.
But what's interesting, and it's probably worth noting as well, is that since this investigation, the amount of investigations that we've done after this, and we've heard whistling as well, and we're thinking, that's never really happened before.
We heard some at Fort Horsted as well.
There you go. Is something kind of connected to our group in terms of the way to make themselves known to us is by whistling. Like everywhere we've gone, we've heard whistling.
You know what Dan always asks? Dan will whistle.
Yeah.
Dan always asks, can you copy? And he'll...
Yeah.
All the time.
And so when we're talking about investigations that are coming up, we're going to talk about whistling again. But from what I heard, again, it was definitely a man. And it was as clear as day, as if he was whistling for his dog. That's the only way I can describe it.
But then we've got the laser grid.
Yeah. One of Alan's toys again. And this is the one I think about the most, like from the whole night. So, we'll say 9:30, clear break in the grid, observed on a window section, left window, second pane up.
I remember this.
And then something crosses that beam,
I remember this because I remember this. It was facing into a room, the laser grid. It was sat down in the door of the room, facing into the room. And I remember being stood back and looking to my right. Not looking to my right and seeing the person in front of me look to their right in through the window of the room. And they just went, they literally went, something just broke that laser grid. And I was so annoyed because if it had been like 2 seconds afterwards, it'd have been me. But that's what I remember. But it interrupts, but clearly we observed it being interrupted.
Yeah, I mean, it interrupts it cleanly in a way. I mean, the way a solid object moving through a beam would. But here's the important part, is that we didn't just log it and move on. We tested it ourselves. Someone walked through that same section of the grids afterwards, obviously deliberately to see whether the disturbance pattern matched of what we've seen. And it did. So whatever broke that beam behaved exactly the way a physical body walking through it would have behaved as well.
I mean, it doesn't prove anything, but it definitely tells you something about what we observed.
Well, it rules out the boring explanation. Insects don't produce that kind of break. A change in ambient light doesn't produce that kind of break either. Something moved through that space at height, at the right pace, in the right pattern, on a window ledge, in a locked, empty fort, in the middle of the night when there was obviously no one else around.
Yeah, so literally just says I wasn't in the room for that one. I was actually the next casemate over, but I was really gutted. It was quite interesting for me because obviously, the thuds, the lights, the whistling and all that stuff, I can get by that. That's not a problem, That is what it is. But to hear that somebody's seen a figure, you know, not maybe a figure, but we've observed something that is not a sound, it's not a noise, it's we've observed something.
Yeah.
That was quite striking to me on my first investigation.
Yeah. I mean, you know, that's the moment that it kind of shifts for everyone, right? And that obviously is the first time for your own skepticism as well that comes into it.
To be tested, yeah, 100%.
But we're going to have to hold that fort, because we're now going to have to make this a two-parter.
Yeah.
Because we're running out of time, and it's always that way that we never know how long this episodes are going to take anything. But we've got a new segment, and we need to kind of address that. So
questions for the hosts.
Yeah, so this is questions for the hosts, and this is something that's obviously come out of the feedback from our subscribers or the viewers that have left comments on YouTube or the other downloads as well. So again, thank you for contacting us. This is what we want. Yeah, I mean, we've just got 500 downloads confirmed as well, which is fantastic. So again, thank you for being part of that, subscribing and doing everything that we asked you to do.
Yeah, you're the OGs as well. So when we're big and famous, we'll remember you.
Yeah,
and you can come on investigations with us as our special guests. We promise.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we listen to what you say, and that is why this podcast show is so important, because it's not just about what we say. We want the feedback, we want the criticism, we want the answering back.
We want the explanation.
Yeah, but equally we want your take on the subject as well. And I think that's that's credit to the subjects that we're talking about as well, I think.
So let's get into the first question, shall we? Because we have a couple of questions. Leslie asks us, why are there hundreds of spirits in certain locations?
Well, first of all, there isn't. But we don't know that for sure. We don't go to a location and know that there are hundreds of spirits there. Maybe if you've gone to a battlefield and thousands of people have died, maybe you can kind of say, you've possibly got 100 spirits here, but you don't know for sure, right? It's like you could say, I'll go to a cemetery with like thousands of dead bodies there. It's not to say that they're all just sat there waiting for someone to come in. No,
it's difficult, isn't it? Because obviously you go to these places of, it's strange because these places, if the theory holds, they're supposed to be emotionally charged. They're supposed to be significant. They're supposed to be places of trauma or experience.
Yeah.
That's the theory, that you go to the...
Yeah, so when I say like a battlefield, it's because it's got that residual energy.
But that's the question.
Yeah.
Residual energy is not a spirit.
No, it's a replaying of time.
It's a replaying of time. It's a scar left in the environment by some form of trauma. So just because...
Which could be linked with geothermic energy as well, like that maybe the two come mining together.
Water, water nearby.
Water and earth and fire, all of those things.
Ley lines.
Yep.
All that stuff can converge onto one place and make it particularly spirit friendly, and make it there to be easily imprinted upon. But I think the important distinction between spirits and residual energy is intelligence and purpose and ability to communicate on an actual not sensible level, but an actual on a level.
Yeah.
Residual energy is just going to replay like footsteps, bits and pieces like that. They're stone tape theory.
I think to answer the question as well to Leslie is that I've never gone to a location and someone has said there's hundreds of spirits here, by the way. It's never happened.
No, I think the most I've heard is like 7.
Yeah.
And even then that's, you're talking a big place, like Dover Castle, might have 10.
But again, you never hear from those 10 people either.
No, you don't. And Dover Castle, is 1,000 years old. That's one spirit every 100 years. That's not bad. Hundreds of spirits.
Well, I mean, Fort Burgoyne had 145 years of military use, generations of soldiers.
Yeah, and we might have 3.
And how many of those people would have
Maybe.
died and maybe, lingered on? I don't know.
Maybe this is the problem, is that you're never going to be able to answer that question, because we don't know, number one, if there are ghosts, how you become one, what sort of recipe that you need to be able to conjure up to be able to stick around.
Well, if it falls back down to that kind of like, do you, maybe in your head you think, I don't want to go to hell because I might not go to heaven because of the stuff I've done in my life, but that's something else. But
hundreds of spirits, no. A few spirits, yes. With considerable residual energy is definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, and again, I believe that everything is consisting of energy, not necessarily 100 of spirits, but what's to say that this residual energy, or the energy that gets manifested in that area, it could also be a way of connecting to multiple spirits.
Would you be more inclined to say that areas that have a higher level of residual energy are more likely to have an active spirit?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
So I think the more residual energy that you have, the more the old knocks, the old thumps, the old bumps in the night. I think the more likely you are to be able to have an environment that will foster an intelligent being. And then that's where you get, it won't be 100 spirits. Yeah, it might be the residual energy of somebody, but the spirit might be of somebody else. And then that's where it can cross the line. But thank you for the question, as we really do appreciate it.
Yeah, and I mean, just to ask you a quick question to finish on that, have you ever entered a place and felt that you were overcrowded by somebody who's not in a room?
Yes. But that's for part 2.
Right, okay, fair enough. I mean, I experienced that at Kelvedon, and in exactly the same spot and in the same room where I think it was me, Laura, and a couple of others were walking around. Laura and I both felt that there was an overcrowding moment in that room where it was very, very dark.
The basement of Fort Burgoyne.
Okay.
Basement.
Well, we can come back to that.
We'll get onto that, yeah. Because that's a scary place.
Yes,
I don't like
that doesn't happen very often, though, where you do feel legitimately overcrowded and like to the notion of where you're kind of like feeling claustrophobic and you have to kind of get out of there.
Right, Rich. Thank you for your question, Rich. Rich asks us, how do you test and prove that your equipment isn't giving false positives? Which is a great question to ask.
Yeah, and Dan has prepared an answer for myself to read out on his behalf, so I will start that now. So the honest answer is that no single activation proves anything paranormal. Before an investigation, we check the equipment, the batteries and settings, and establish normal readings for the location. During a session, we log the time, who is present, and what else is happening nearby. We look for ordinary causes, first phones, radios, wiring, movement, vibration, drafts, moisture, insects, and even other pieces of equipment. If something activates, we try to recreate it under the same conditions. We move people and devices, repeat the question or action, swap equipment where possible, and check where another camera or recorder captured the same event. A result becomes more interesting when it is responsive, repeatable, or independently recorded. But even then, we call it unexplained evidence, not proof of a spirit. False positives are always possible. Our job is to pretend they aren't. It is to eliminate as many as we can and be honest about what remains.
Yeah, so I think that's really important. So we had this interesting discussion the other day. Crabby was talking to me about the use of cat balls, about how people feel about them within the paranormal community, and about the response that people have to investigators that use them. And normally it's not great, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little annoyed by how they've been portrayed by some debunkers, or how they've been kind of like almost ridiculed to the point of like they're saying, if you use that in an investigation, we're not going to take you seriously.
This really annoyed me. This is an environment where we don't know if this exists. We don't know. We don't know if any of what we're doing is real. We don't know. That's what we're here to find out. And the truth is, is if you don't know it's real, you don't know how to investigate it. And just because something costs £600 and is made by a company that claims to be this all-knowing, benevolent, omnipotent being of the paranormal, and we've got a £5 cat ball from Amazon, there's no definitive way to document something that we don't know exists. It's all about trial and error, and using logic and experiences and consistent repeating and reports. So just because somebody's using a piece of equipment that you might not feel credible about yourself, there's no need to completely dismiss it, because at the end of the day, you might have just gone and spent £700 for something that actually doesn't do anything, because none of this exists. We don't know.
It's no different from a fisherman using a different type of bait. A fisherman might be using something that's electronic rather than natural, cheat in the system.
Exactly. Fishing in its essence can be done with a rod and a float. That's the most basic float fishing. And then you've got the people that use ground bait, and they use bite alarms so they can go to sleep when they're doing it.
I mean, I've caught fish using just bread and sweet corn.
Yeah, exactly. You know, my granddad used a hook, a rod, and he used to use crust to float on the top to catch carp.
There you go.
And then in the bay next to him, there's a bloke using a £700 match rod with a bite alarm, and it had a feeder on the bottom, and he ground bait into hell. And my granddad's pulled out £11 carp, and this bloke's there with catching nothing. And at the end of the day,
it's a good analogy, right?
It is.
Because paranormal ghost hunting, it's very much like fishing. You can go to a lake, or you can go to a venue, and you'll catch absolutely nothing.
Yeah, if you like fishing, guys, you are the right temperamented being,
right,
to become a paranormal investigator.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you've got the patience for it as well, then why not do fishing as well as paranormal investigating as well?
I love fishing.
Just drop the rod down, make sure it's secure, and then you can go off into the woods, listen out for your fishing alarm.
No, not allowed that, mate. We've just told you.
What?
Be a purist, Crabby. No bite alarms.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe not the same. Do the same thing at the same time then. But anyway, I'm rambling on again. Stop it. Rick, someone called Lucy, sounds familiar. She's asked this question. How scared of spiders are you?
Right. I'm not scared of spiders.
Okay.
I don't like when they touch me.
Fair enough. I don't know anyone who does, other than the people that work with them in a zoo.
Like, I can go to the zoo and I can look at them in the tank, and I'm like, that's a really cool, like, that's a really pretty animal, like, it's, X, Y, and Z. Doesn't mean it don't freak me out a little bit.
My issue with spiders has kind of changed when I went to Australia. Like, now over here we get little spiders which I can handle. Like, when you're walking, you might see them in a fence, or in a cobweb on a cold day or something like that. In Australia, in that same kind of essence of how we have spiders, they are tarantulas. And that was something that I couldn't handle, because I did numerous walks going from beaches to beaches, and it was quite lengthy, and you see these spiders, and I just couldn't handle it.
I don't blame you, mate. Honestly, they're not my favourite thing in the world, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I love them, because I don't. They freak me out a little bit.
Especially on an investigation, when you're in the dark, and then you shine your torch, and then you're met with a spider that's got a big old white egg thing on its back.
Dan, if you can, insert the photograph of the one that you took at Fort Horsted last week, because, oh my Lord, that was like that.
Yeah.
Body the size of my thumb. It was a massive boy. Yeah. It had some big old fangs in it as well. And I'm just like, them ones, like, like the daddy long legs and all that lot. Don't care about them. They're fine. It's the big black ones.
Yeah.
That run. That as soon as you shine a light on them, they're gone. I don't like them. Let's do a little bit of teasing for the next episode, yeah?
Yes. So we've got a fair bit to come up with. Like, we're still talking about the remainder of the investigation. We have the room dubbed the Disney room, right?
Disney room,
The Disney room, which kind
weird
of has some interesting stories. We have a story by Laura that had a personal experience which was very interesting, which kind of led to her kind of having something happen at home as well, but we can touch upon that. And Yeah, I mean, it is literally just the remainder of the investigation, really. To be honest with you, to talk about the tunnels more in depth, like because we were on the top floor, we haven't even touched about going
or the basement.
deeper
Oh
down
my
into
lord,
the basement. Yeah,
the basement was terrifying.
Yeah, and equally, the evidence that we captured, we have to talk about that. There's stuff that we can't explain. We'll talk about that.
One of my favourite pieces of evidence comes out of this investigation, and I'll make sure that Dan's on that one.
And it's our own interpretation as well. What we all feel like, like looking back, the things that we've caught, what we think about it, and the theories behind it as well.
We've got a minute left to record here. I feel like we captured a spirit on camera.
Yeah.
That's what I think from this investigation. If you want to hear more, if you're excited, if you want to see that, join us again in 2 weeks' time.
Yes.
Where we'll be putting you through your paces and letting you know exactly how we found this investigation.
Yeah, stick with us, obviously, because we've just run out of time.
We have. That's my fault. Very sorry, guys. But if you have enjoyed this podcast, please like, follow, subscribe. Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify, all the stuff that you use. Yeah. YouTube, hit a like, give a notification bell to let you know when we post. But even equally, if you want to just reach out and just tell us that we're crap, it's all interaction. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you.
There is no kind of bad press, as they say. It's all helpful. So hit us on the comments as well if you've been to Fort Burgoyne or you know of it, and or maybe you've got family members who might have served there. It'd be kind of cool to hear from that. So yeah, stick around, stay with us, and follow us again on the next episode.
Yeah. Without further ado, that has been Case Files,
episode 12.
Episode 12, part 1.
Wow. Yeah.
Fort Burgoyne. Have a great night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you on the next one.